السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، وصلى الله وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. Welcome to the 14th episode of A Story and an Ayah. Today, inshallah, I would like to share with you verses number 27, 28, and 29 from Suraht al-Furqan. This is where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا يَا وَيْلَتَى لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ بَعْدَ إِذْ جَاءَنِي وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا. The meaning of these verses are that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about this individual on the Day of Judgment when he regrets and what he does. And the verses go and they say, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ, and the day where the wrongdoer bites on his hand. Why? Out of regret. يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا, I wish I had taken with the messenger a means and a way, meaning that he wishes that he had followed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يَا وَيْلَتَى, oh woe to me, لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا, I wish I have not taken so and so as a friend, meaning that I have not taken this person who has guided me away and astray from the right path as a friend. لَقَدْ أَضَلَّنِي عَنِ الذِّكْرِ, he had led me astray from the dhikr, meaning the Quran or the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, بعد إذ جاءني, after it had come to me, which means that this person had received the revelation, he has received the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. However, this friend of him led him astray from it and he followed him. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says at the end of these verses, وَكَانَ الشَّيْطَانُ لِلْإِنسَانِ خَذُولًا, and the shaitan for man or to man is ever a deserter. He forsakes him after he had led him astray. So what is the story behind these three verses? It is mentioned that in Mecca, when the Prophet ﷺ, at the beginning of his da'wah, when he was relaying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to the people of Quraysh, and some of the people of Quraysh would harm the Prophet ﷺ, they were aggressive towards him and some Muslims, and there were still a few, this is still the beginning of the da'wah, beginning of the messages of the Prophet ﷺ in Mecca, and so some were still not, on the fence, not harming the Prophet ﷺ. It just happened that one of those people who would not harm the Prophet ﷺ yet was Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt. And it's mentioned that Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, he would have this habit that after he would come from a travel or something, he would gather people around food and he would invite them. He would cook some food and he would invite them. And so among the people he would invite was the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, it was mentioned that he would like to sit with the Prophet ﷺ. He used to feel good when he was with the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, some other narrations mentioned that he was very close to accepting, but his self and his desires would sometimes push him away and direct him towards not becoming a Muslim yet. Whatever the case is, the incident that happened was that Uqba ibn Abu Mu'ayt had one day invited some people, and he invited the Prophet ﷺ along with these individuals. And the Prophet ﷺ said, I will not eat your food until you bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Meaning that I would not eat your food until you say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. And so Abu Mu'ayt, what he did was, he did say that statement, and so the Prophet ﷺ ate the food. Abi Mu'ayt, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, had a very close friend. In fact, one can say that he was his best friend. However, he was not with Abi Mu'ayt, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt at that point. This individual was on a travel, on a journey, on a business trip, and he came later on. Now this individual was Ubay ibn Khalaf. When he came back from his travel, he asked about the people, what's Muhammad doing? And he was informed that the Prophet ﷺ was still continuing his da'wah. And by the way, Ubay ibn Khalaf was one of the disbelievers. In fact, he was one of the people who was the harshest towards the Muslims. So naturally, he was still not a believer, and he did not accept Islam. He died as a non-believer. And so he was asking what did the Prophet Muhammad do? And he was informed that he would increase his da'wah, and so he wasn't happy about this. But then he was informed about his best friend, Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, that he said, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah. Ubay ibn Khalaf did not take this very lightly. He was quite upset. And so the next morning, when people would come to greet Ubay ibn Khalaf because he had come back from his travel, Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt greeted Ubay ibn Khalaf, and he said he greeted him, but Ubay ibn Khalaf did not respond. He did not reciprocate the greeting. So Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt was like, what's wrong? Why aren't you responding? And so he said, I heard, so Ubay ibn Khalaf told him, I heard that you have deserted your religion. And so Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt said, so is this what the people of Quraysh are saying about me? He said, yes. He said, then what should I do so that you, Ubay ibn Khalaf, will be pleased with me and the people of Quraysh would be also pleased with me? So Ubay ibn Khalaf said, I will not talk to you until, ya Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, you go to the Prophet, you go to Muhammad, where he is sitting, and you spit at him, and you insult him, and you essentially you physically harm the Prophet ﷺ. In one narration that you step on him, on the Prophet ﷺ. And so Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, this is what he did. He went to the Prophet ﷺ in public while the Prophet ﷺ was sitting with some of the people, and he insulted the Prophet ﷺ, and he spit on the blessed face of the Prophet ﷺ, and he proceeded to step on the Prophet ﷺ. In the other narrations, it mentioned that Uqba ibn Mu'ayt in fact brought an intestine of a slaughtered animal and he threw it at the Prophet ﷺ. And so by this action, Uqba ibn Mu'ayt, from that day on, what he did was he started becoming more aggressive towards the Muslims. He started becoming more harmful to them, even the Prophet ﷺ. In fact, it was even mentioned that that Uqba ibn Mu'ayt had gotten to the Prophet ﷺ and he started choking the Prophet ﷺ one time when he was prostrating, and that he had brought the intestines of a slaughtered camel and he threw it at the Prophet ﷺ. And in the Battle of Badr, he tried so hard to conspire to kill the Muslims on that Battle of Badr. So this was Uqba ibn Mu'ayt. And later on, he was among the people who were imprisoned in Badr, and he died at that battle, or after the Battle of Badr. And this is when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had revealed these verses, وَيَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَوْمَ يَعَضُّ الظَّالِمُ عَلَى يَدَيْهِ يَقُولُ يَا لَيْتَنِي اتَّخَذْتُ مَعَ الرَّسُولِ سَبِيلًا. So it will be on the day of judgment that Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt would say these words. I wish, he would bite on his hand in regret, and he says, I wish I would take a means with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. يَا لَيْتَنِي لَمْ أَتَّخِذْ فُلَانًا خَلِيلًا. I wish I did not say so and so as a friend, referring who was Ubay ibn Khalaf. يا قد أضلني عن الذكر بعد إذ جاءني. He had led me astray from the remembrance from the Quran after it had come to me. So these were the verses that were revealed in that situation, or this is the reason behind that revelation. There's actually a very important message over here. And this important message has to do with that we should be very careful of who we take as friends. Because friends do have an impact on us. They do affect us. They affect our way of life. They affect how we behave. As human beings, we are social human beings. It is very normal that we affect others similar to how we get affected. And the Prophet ﷺ had taught this ummah, and he was very careful to teach us that it's very important who we are sitting with, or we who take as friends. So for example, the Prophet ﷺ has mentioned in hadith, he said, الرجل على دين خليله فلينظر أحدكم من يخالل. The translation is that the person is on the deen of his friend. Over here, deen means that he is on the way, on the methodology, which means that he is affected by his friend in his manners, in his actions and behaviors. And so the Prophet ﷺ said, المرء على دين خليل, which means the way of his beloved companion. فَلْيَنْظُرْ أَحَدُكُمْ مَنْ يُخَالِلْ, so that each one of you look at who he is befriending. And so it's very normal for us to be affected by our friends in the way we speak, in the way perhaps we dress, in the way we behave, our manners. And so if our friends are good, they're pious, they're Muslim, they're righteous, our speech and behavior and attire and everything about us will be very similar. But also the opposite is true. If our friends and companions are those who are not from the righteous, from the mischievous, the ones who have been led astray, and they do things that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not pleased with, similarly our actions and our speech and our behavior will be the same. This is why the Prophet ﷺ also, when he was teaching us, he's not saying that only you are going to be affected by them, but also that these friends themselves, they can either benefit you or harm you. The example of both the good friend and the bad friend. He said, sallallahu alayhi wasallam, مَثَلُ الْجَلِيسِ الصَّالِحِ وَالسُّوءِ. He said the example or the parable of the companion is good and is bad. He said the parable and the example, كَحَامِلِ مِسْكِ وَنَافِخِ الْكِيرِ, like the person who is the bearer of the musk, the fragrance. He sells musk and fragrances, and the one who is a blacksmith, نَافِخِ الْكِيرِ. فَحَامِلِ الْمِسْكِ إِمَّا أَنْ يَحْذِيَكَ وإما أن تبتاع منه وإما أن تجد منه ريح طيبة. And so the person who is the carrier of the musk, the merchant of the musk, either he will gift you a fragrance, or you will buy from him a fragrance, or even if you're just sitting with him in that area, you will smell a beautiful smell. This is the example or the parable of the good companion. ونافخ الكير, however, the blacksmith, who is the parable or the example of the bad companion, إما أن يحرق ثيابك وإما أن تجد ريحا خبيثة. Either he will burn your clothes because there's fire all those places, sparkles, it can burn your clothes, or the least of it, you're going to smell this bad fragrance because of the heat of the iron and the pounding on it and the bad smell and the sweat. So one way or another, your friends will affect you. Either they will drag you to something that is good. The good companion, when we refer to a good companion, Jalis al-Salih, we perspective, this is an individual who will lead you to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, will encourage you to do things that will bring you closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that will protect you from doing things that will keep you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or make you move further from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the opposite of it is that of the bad companion or the bad friend. This is an individual who will purposefully, whether intentionally or not intentionally, will convince you to do things that will keep you away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And these are examples we see throughout history. And so, for example, the verses that we're talking about over here, this is an example of when Uqba ibn Abi Mu'ayt, sitting with the Prophet ﷺ, he's trying to lead him to the best. You have Ubay ibn Khalaf on the other hand come and he convinced him, no, do not follow the Prophet ﷺ under the judgment. Our lesson, try to make sure that our companions are those who would help us obey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, because otherwise we will regret it on the Day of Judgment. We will regret, and we see that the Prophet ﷺ had taught us what is right, but those individuals led us astray from this. Also true once again throughout history, including, for example, another story with the Prophet ﷺ and his uncle. We know the uncle of the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Talib, he was one of those people who had protected the Prophet that no harm comes to his nephew, the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. Abu Talib at the deathbed. So he wanted him to become a Muslim. So he went to Abu Talib at his deathbed, pleading with him to say La ilaha illallah. However, who was sitting around? And Abdullah ibn Ubay ibn Umayyah. When the Prophet ﷺ came to Abu Talib, he told him, Ya Abu Talib, say La ilaha illallah, become a Muslim, so that I would defend you in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Abu Jahl and Abdullah ibn Umayyah heard this, what did they do? They said to Abu Talib, you are to desert the religion of your forefathers? ترغب عن ملة عبد المطلب? Do you want to leave the religion of Abdul Muttalib? And so Abu Talib remained silent. And so the Prophet ﷺ continued to convince him. And Abu Jahl and his friend on the other side continued to convince him the opposite. And unfortunately, Abu Talib sided with Abu Jahl. He did not want the people of Qur'an on his deathbed that he weakened and he did not have courage and that he deserted the religion of his forefathers because he was afraid. And so he said, at the end became a disbeliever and died a disbeliever. He said, I'm on the faith Abd al-Muttalib. And this is something that is unfortunate. Our friends sometimes peer pressure us to do wrong, similar to how good friends can sometimes peer pressure us to do things that are right. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who are able to wisely their friends, because they do affect us one way or another, whether we, so that inshallah we will be with those who we love from among our friends in Jannah, and not that we have followed those friends that are bad, that will lead us astray from the right path, the path of the Prophet ﷺ, the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, which in the end will only lead to Jannah. I ask Allah to enter Jannah on the Day of Judgment with those who are in the highest ranks, with the righteous and the pious predecessors. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.